Hello, students. Today we're going to be working on found poetry. Sometimes you've heard me refer to it as blackout poetry. There's a couple of differences, a couple of small differences, but they're very similar. When you go to middle school, when you go to high school, you may hear your English teachers refer to these poems as either found or blackout poetry. What is a found poem? A found poem is created by choosing words from a text and creatively arranging them to make a poem. Found poems are special because they can be free verse. You can arrange the lines and stanzas how you would like, and even put line breaks wherever you choose. Found poems can be long or short. The idea is imagine you were going on a treasure hunt, looking for poetry in unlikely spots. A page from a book, an article, the back of a cereal box, anything with words, even recipe guides. Use a regular text that is not written as a poem and creatively gather text from within that regular text. Highlight, box, or circle the words you want to use. So I'm going to spend just a little time here. So between bullet 1 and bullet 2, you're going on a treasure hunt to look for words that stand out for you in any type of text except poetry, okay? And then all you're going to do is create a poem. So you're going to take text that's already there and create new text. That's all you're doing. And to do that, you can highlight, box, circle the words that you want. A strong recommendation, if you're going to do this on paper or when you do this on paper, because we're going to complete this assignment digitally today. But if you do this assignment or a later assignment, or you decide to do this on your own and you're creating found poetry or blackout poetry, it is a strong recommendation to use pencil first. And the reason that I recommend that, I do blackout poetry often. I always start out with a pencil because I'll change my mind. And pencils give me the option to erase. Bullet 3, which is probably the most important bullet on this slide. You get to choose the words from the text that you want or like. You are the poet, so you decide what stands out to you. Use the words you choose and write them in the order they appear in the text to create your poem. If you notice, the word you appears all over this bullet. That is on purpose. That is intentional. When you create your poem today, you should create what stands out, what feels good to you. Do not worry about what your peers think, what your teachers think. Poetry is always written best when it's written from the poet's heart. Poetry is a freedom of expression. The best songs written were songs that pleased the writer, not necessarily the audience, okay, because it was authentic, real, genuine. So don't forget this part on bullet 3. Now we're going to take a look at some examples. We have 3 different examples, and you're going to notice a couple of things. You're going to notice that you're not going to see me read. I will not read those paragraphs. I will not. I'm only going to focus on the treasure hunt, finding the words that the author found out that stood out, and then you're going to see how they put that how they took those words from the treasure hunt and created a found poem. Here's example 1. Now, if we just look at it and we glance, you can tell there's some clues there, some text features and everything. We know that they use informational text about eagles, okay? The words in the red boxes are the poet's treasures. They went on the treasure hunt, and these were the words they found. What you need to make sure that you understand is that the order of the words creates the poem. You do not move the words you want them. You can't move the words where you want to move them. That's part of the challenge, being able to go on this treasure hunt and find the words in placement to create your poem. So let's take a look. They took bald eagle, national bird of the United States, government, the great seal or a great seal of the United States, presidential, coins, paper money, postage stamps, large, majestic bird. So those are the words they found for their poem. This was their finished piece. Bald eagle. So they gave it a title. Bald eagle, national bird of the United States of, let me begin again. Bald eagle, national bird of the United States government, great seal of the United States, presidential, coins, paper money, postage stamps, large majestic bird. Now, if we take a look back, you'll notice that after bald eagle, there's no dash there. There's no punctuation there. But in their final piece, they added punctuation there. You do have that freedom with found poems to do that. You can move, when you put it on move it from here, which is kind of like the draft, to your final piece, you do have the freedom to add punctuation, okay? One reason why they took on the found poetry, they moved from the draft, and they moved it to a clean background, is because it removes all the distractors, all the words that they didn't use. This is a different way to black out. So from here to here, you have a clean poem. Let's take a look at example 2. Example 2, they use another informational text. Okay, this informational text was on chocolate chip cookies. As much as I love chocolate chip cookies, I want to read this, but I'm not going to at this time. I will read it after the lesson is done because I'm curious. But for the sake of creating a found poem, the same thing. The poet did the same thing. They just decided to go on the treasure hunt. They found words that stood out to them. The only difference in this one and the one you just saw before is, rather than use boxes, this poet decided, hey, on my treasure hunt, I'm going to identify my treasures, my words with highlighter. But they did the same thing in terms of placement. The words they chose remain in that place to create the poem. The words are not going to be moved around when you see the final product. So let's take a look. Toll House in Whitman, Massachusetts, a simple mistake to save time. Ruth, in a hurry, baked cookies speckled with chunks of chocolate, undeniably delicious. Nestle Toll House, given life, popular chocolate chip cookie. Now, if you look, there's a lot of words in here that they did not use. So this poet did the same thing. They moved it to a clean background. It took away all the other distractors, and then they wrote their poem in the same order. They did decide to give this a title, A Delicious Invention. Toll House in Whitman, Massachusetts, a simple mistake to save time. Ruth, in a hurry, baked cookies speckled with chunks of chocolate. Undeniably delicious, Nestle Toll House given life, popular chocolate chip cookie. If you notice, this poet was creative in terms of design, line lengths. Remember that other slide? It said you have the freedom to make your poems short or small, and you also get to control your line lengths. When a poet makes lines longer, there's a certain way they want you to read it. When they make lines shorter, there's a certain way they want you to read it. That's done intentionally. This poet also chose words with some figurative language, chunks of chocolate. We have some alliteration, and it gives the poem a rhythm. Then we have chocolate chip down here at the bottom, and some more alliteration. But let's read this again so that you can hear the rhythm in the line lengths, how it controls the reader when they read. Toll House in Whitman, Massachusetts, a simple mistake to save time. Ruth, in a hurry, baked cookies, speckled with chunks of chocolate, undeniably delicious. Nestle Toll House, given life, popular chocolate chip cookie. There's a rhythm. So pay attention to that as you're writing, but let it come naturally. And then last but not least, we have our third example. We're going through the same process. I'm not reading it. Even if I'm interested, I'm not reading it. The poet went on the treasure hunt. They identified the words they wanted to use for the poem. Notice this one is going to be shorter. That's okay. You get to control that. Balance, yoga-like pose, soloed stance, one-legged lounging, flamingos, namaste. They moved it over and put it here. They used, just like the one on the previous poem, they gave you an image. Balance, notice the position. The words are kind of going back and forth. Balance, yoga-like pose, soloed stance, one-legged lounging, flamingos, namaste. Again, notice that there's kind of like a pattern going on. So when you're creating your poem today and you do the final piece, so you have the draft where you're doing this, and when you create like the slide that has your poem written out and you're doing your line links, remember you have the freedom to include images. Your line links are up to you. Where you put them on the page, your reader just has to be able to read it in order. Okay, so be careful and be aware of that. Okay, and then to close this out again, y'all, I want you to remember that you're doing this for you. So you choose the words you want. You're the poet. You decide. This is about you. So let's go into a practice found poem I'm going to do with you. We'll discuss. I'll answer questions. I'll get you started, and then I'm going to release you to create your own, and then you'll submit that to me, and that will be your reading assignment for today. All right, y'all. Let's go and let's have fun.